You can take strategies and you can throw them out the window today. Most of the drivers and crew chiefs say it's a seat of a pants race. Not because of the 2 pit stops, because of tires. It seems that the tire is a harder compound here this year than last year, but the problem is it only lasts for about 4 laps. Then they go away, and they only last for about 20 laps. So many of the crew chiefs are concerned that they won't have a sufficient tire left at the end of the race. So even though you could have gone on 1 stop, many people feel that that second stop that was made mandatory may benefit them by being able to change tires. Not the case with Chip Ganassi's crew. Eddie Cheever, they planned regardless to come in under the first caution. They attached the fuel vent hose. They say, we've got our mandatory stop out of the way. We're going to try and go the rest of the distance on only 1 stop if the tires hold out.
And once again, the definition of the pit stop is to attach the fuel hose or to change a tire. Indication is Mario Andretti, you're on board with him now, has some loose bodywork and a little damage to the left front. Right front suspension, Bobby Unser looks pretty good.
It certainly does, Paul. I don't think he's got any problems. Like I said, he didn't hit as hard as it first looked like he did. Here's a guy that's down a lap. Ari Lyondike, he sat there with a dead engine, couldn't get restarted. He's got a long way to catch up.
Once he did, he slid into 24th or last place. Mario Andretti will restart in 23rd position. No cars out of the race as a result of that. Rick Mears, as noted, made a quick pass through the pits. They took a look at the nose, made what changes they could. Carl Haas certainly wondering about the condition of Mario's car, and his hopes for the moment are pinned on Michael's car. Now, this is Michael's. The difference for these onboard cameras is you will notice Michael has a great deal of white on the cowling around the cockpit. Mario's will have some black paint in the area up there around the cockpit. So we'll try and help you along, but we need the help as well.
Mario, of course, announced that he would drive for the Newman Haas team for another 2 years, so his career very much invigorated by that recent decision at the same time that Michael said he would sign for next year. Mario obviously hit from behind to trigger that incident, and you see him now.
The pace car has already pulled off into the pit area as the field circles in front of the pits. And one more turn, a right-hander, and they should see a green flag once again, assuming they're lined up and the starter accepts the positioning. And we should be back racing. We are, in fact. So the Texaco Havoline Grand Prix of Denver is back underway. No cars out of the races as a result of that first contact, but what it has done is strung the field out just a little bit. Eddie Cheever pulls up there to try and make a little move on John Andretti, and the rest of the field, for the most part, comes through single file.
Michael was very concerned with riding with him here when I talked to him day before yesterday about Ray Hall's ability to keep these tires alive. Jack Root mentioned the tire wear issue. Ray Hall has a very good setup in his car that does not overheat the tires as much as in Michael's car. So Michael may try to pour it on here in the early stages to get what of a lead he possibly can over his rival.
Now the temperature is hot here in Denver. Temperatures into the 90s, so a clear sky overhead. Bobby Unser, they're actually facing several problems. You already mentioned the altitude problem and the fact that there isn't a lot of air getting into the brakes and the coolers. But we also have the problem of high temperatures and surface differences, asphalt, concrete, and that's what's going to wear the tires. Look at Fittipaldi as he locks that right front coming into that corner.
What you find mostly, Paul, is that the sun is shining. If we had clouds overhead, everything would stay fine. The 90-degree temperature would be no factor at all. It's the clouds overhead. It makes that pavement just really hot and slippery because it's the radiant heat that does it. You watch Ammo sliding his tires going in. He just doesn't have his brake balance set just right now, but partially because the sun's shining on the track.
Michael Andretti leads, Bobby Rahal, then Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi is fourth. Mario Andretti is being shown high up in the lineup on the computer, but we doubt that situation. We'll check it for you. And Al Unser Jr. moves inside of Bobby Rahal, and Al Unser Jr. now has second place. So the Gallus team already moving very quickly here, and Al Unser Jr. recognizing that if he is to have any place at all in winning this race a second time, he needs to move early.
Al Unser Jr. did not do very well on Friday in qualifying. He did a bit better yesterday, and he has shown now that all that time through qualifying, he was pursuing a race day setup, not worried about qualifying time so much. He obviously has that same kind of terrific race day setup he had here last year and earlier this year at Long Beach, 2 races which he won decisively. I imagine as Michael Andretti sees him in his mirrors, he may be very afraid of what he sees.
Confirmation accurate. Mario Andretti runs in 5th place. 6th is Scott Pruitt. Scott Goodyear is up in 7th place. John Andretti is 8th, and Eddie Cheever is 9th, followed by Danny Sullivan. Michael Andretti, without question, as Sam Posey suggested right at the start, is the man to catch here today. He has finished second to Ray Hall in championships in the past. He does not want to have that happen again. So now 4 laps are complete here in Denver, and Michael Andretti has led through the first caution. We're back to racing. Since of Lyondike, a much faster car as Lyondike ducks to the inside. Back at the front of the field, Al Unser Jr. chases Michael Andretti. They come down into the what should be up. Michael is trying to hold off Al Unser Jr., but little Al is pushing as hard as he can. They come beside the pits now, making a quick curve through there, and little Al is right on top of Michael Andretti. Into the final turn now. Nice long straightaway just ahead. Michael Andretti has led from the green flag through the first caution, but Al Unser Jr. was able to move up as soon as the green flag came out the second time. Now he's right at the back of Michael's car. Al Unser comes to the inside. Michael tries to protect the line. Now Boyd, he waits to break until the last second and then turns in, and Al Unser Jr. takes the lead.
Well, that was close to a wreck, Paul, because you can watch Michael getting ready to just get over there and block him a bit. Almost a touching there.
Let's go down to the pits, Jackaroo.
Paul, the biggest concern that Rick Ellis had before the start of this race was that his driver would go to the front too soon. He said, I need to keep a bridle on both my drivers because we don't want to wear the car out. But then I asked him, how do you do that? He says, with little Al, you just have to wait. He dictates the pace of the race. Obviously, there's not a bridle in his mouth this afternoon.
Al Unser Jr. going just as fast and hard as he can.
That pass of his was an identical pass almost to the one at the end of the long straight at Long Beach this spring when he also passed Michael Andretti for the lead. A race in which, of course, little Al went on to win handily.
Now the fight becomes one for second place as Michael Andretti trying to hold off little Al's teammate at the Craig Gallus operation, and that is Bobby Rahal, the points leader.
Now we got to remember, little Al is out in the lead, pulling away a little bit. To Rahal, this becomes very important. The tires are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. Passing becomes harder the worse that the tires get as compared to sticking on the racetrack. So Rahal has to push very hard to Michael now. If they don't have a yellow flag, he could be in trouble if he gets held up.
And at the same time, Emerson Fittipaldi is set up to try and attack Rahal any time now.
Well, consider the championship position, too. Rahal, of course, leads the championship by the big margin that you described at the beginning of the show, Paul. But he can afford to finish second or third today. So he may be just a little bit cautious. Michael Andretti basically is in a must-win position, as is Al Unser Jr. So we're going to see all day long not only a race waged in front of us, but a championship battle with all of the strategic implications that go with that.
As a matter of fact, Rahal could win the championship quite simply by keeping Michael Andretti in sight in front of him through the rest of the season. But of course, that's not really the way Rahal would ever play.
Rahal loves this situation, but they're both attackers. You know, Rahal, a great student, of course, of military history. We're talking about it with Bob Sterling, our great advisor, this morning, and he said, you know, when you think about it, these are like General Grant and General Lee. They're both attacking men, and they're not going to give it up just because they're not going for the lead. They're thinking the championship, too.
At the same time, Michael Andretti may be driving with greater style than he ever has in his career. He has really been outstanding. I spoke to him the other night at a ball they held here to the benefit of the Heart Association. I told him I was sorry because he was going to miss a ride in Formula One this next year. And he said, don't feel sorry for me. I love what I'm doing. And look how well he's doing it now, though Al Unser Jr. runs in front.
Well, of course, the negotiations for the Formula One ride, among other things, allowed him to have some leverage over this team. Probably signed a very large dollar deal, which he is not adverse to doing, but also to demonstrate that he is a key element in this team, a man, the kind of a really driving genius around which a whole team gels.
So Michael Andretti